Robert Kennedy Jr. was on CNN this week and was asked whether Trump or Biden was a greater threat to democracy. And you know that I hate this phrase, threat to democracy. America is not just a democratic system. We are a constitutional democratic republic. We are governed by our founding document. Everyone is subservient to that legislation. The people of the United States elect people to represent them in our federal government. That's a republic by a democratic process. Now, the liberals wish that we were a pure, outright democracy because they could revolutionize America at breakneck speed, if so. I think that's why they constantly repeat the phrase over and over, threat to democracy, this and that. Anyway, we'll play along for the segment. RFK is basically asked, who's worse, Biden or Trump? Here's what he said.
People talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses. Do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Donald Trump, of course, tried to overturn a free and fair election. He tried to overturn one, right? He's still fighting in court.
Yes.
How is that not a threat to democracy?
Well, I think that is a threat to democracy. If him trying to overthrow the election clearly is a threat to democracy. But the question was, who is a worse threat to democracy? And what I would say is, I'm not going to answer that question, but I can argue that President Biden is, because the First Amendment, Aaron, is the most important. Adams and Hamilton and Madison said, we put the guarantee of freedom of expression in the First Amendment because all of our other constitutional rights depend on it. If you have a government that can silence its opponents, it has license for any atrocity.
So just to be clear, you're saying you could make an argument that President Biden is a worse threat to democracy than Donald Trump. That's what you just said.
But who else has ever tried to send, what president in history has ever tried to censor political opponents?
They try to cut him off, saying, but Trump, and he agrees with her, but says that Biden's violations of the First Amendment and his weaponizing of federal agencies demonstrate a much bigger threat to quote-unquote democracy. And you could add to this the Democrats' attempt to remove Trump from the election process through a bogus interpretation of the 14th Amendment, the rainstorm of political prosecutions he's facing in multiple courts at multiple levels to hamper his campaign and drain his money, and also the disparate treatment from Biden's DOJ. Really, the question that should be asked is, who is the biggest threat to the U.S. Constitution? And that is undoubtedly Joseph Robinette Biden. Now, questioning or contesting the results of an election are not threats to democracy, and they never will be. That's why the Democrats are contesting the election results in 2016. That they're still contesting that. That's why they objected to and fought the results of the 2000 election. Thanks for watching this clip. Listen, I want to make sure that you stay informed on the news and the biblical response to it. So do yourself and us a favor and hit the subscribe button before you go. And then we would love for you to go check out wethefreeshow.com to grab yourself some merch to spread the word of We the Free. And we're also going to put a video on the screen right now that we think that you'll like. Now, go and be that salt and light, and we'll see you next time.